Deathloop has received the biggest marketing push I've seen in a very long time. It has showed up at every single Sony event that we've seen for the last 12 months. And I guess rightfully so, because this is Bethesda's last hurrah on the PlayStation platform for now, as far as we're aware, because they are owned by Xbox now. Maybe future games are on PlayStation, but it doesn't really seem like it. Okay, let's move on. Deathloop, what is it? So much marketing has happened, so many trailers, there's even been a developer walkthrough, and it still doesn't explain what the hell the game is. So that's what I'm here for. I beat the game now, and I think it's really fun. We'll give it a score at the end of the video, but for now, let's talk about what Deathloop is and what it isn't. Before we do get started though, make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I get so bored of saying that, and every YouTuber ever says it. It's kind of unfortunate. All right, but what is it? Basically, it is a murder mystery that you have to slowly solve day by day, piece by piece. You got to get this big jigsaw puzzle filled out, and then once you do, you're able to take out 8 different targets all in one loop, hence breaking the loop. And breaking the loop is the objective of the game. I'm not going to get into any story spoilers here. That's probably about as far as we go with like story stuff. Your objective is to break the loop. But what's the structure? Because we know that defeating each of the variants is what they're called here in one loop is the main objective. But how do you do that? There are 4 levels with 4 different times of the day on each. There is morning, noon, afternoon, evening. Each level does change slightly, some more than others, according to the time of day. There's a target that you can only take out in the morning because that is the only time that she is available to take out. There's a party that another one of the variants is hosting, and you probably want to get as many of them together at that party as possible. And to do all of this, you have to find clues about each one of the variants, sometimes very personal, sometimes very funny in the world. And with those clues, you go into the next day with just a little bit more information, and that extra bit of information that you pick up on each single playthrough, it eventually adds up to all the pieces lining up and you being able to do what you gotta do and take them all out at once. That's kind of the structure. Dying resets the loop, although you have 2 respawns per level. If you were making really good progress on one loop but you died, boom, it's erased. You gotta start over. Getting to the evening and not taking out all of the targets resets the loop yet again. If you are not successful in taking each one of the targets all out at once, reset. You gotta do it all again. And fun fact, I was about to beat the game and I thought that I had taken out every single target, but I forgot one. That was just poor management on my part. All that to say is the game isn't linear. If you are a fan of what Arkane does, like you should be, because Arkane is a wonderful, wonderful, talented studio, then you know they have some really awesome world building, and it's usually way more linear than this because this is all over the place. You get to tackle your objectives in any number of ways that you want. Do you feel like going to get some more powerful weapons and powers? Sure, go do that before you continue on any of the main stuff. Okay, you're ready for the main stuff? There's a long list of stuff that you have to find out about each one of these variants in order to get them to do what you want, and you are able to go about it in the order of your choosing. There is almost no stopping you from taking on the game in any style that you want. And that's one of the things that I feel that the game should be applauded for, because narratively it does something different. And if this was a linear game, I was talking with my friend Zach, you guys know him. I was talking with him, he said, hey, if it was linear, would you think it does cool, or do you only like it because it's like quirky and different? And I don't know that this is a better game if it's linear. I think that the way that it's set up makes it so that the quality that I feel is there is completely contingent on the structure of the game being so different. The way I like to put it is that we have dozens and hundreds and thousands of linear shooters, right? They exist. Story-based linear shooters have been a thing for a very long time. We don't have anything like Deathloop. And if it exists out there, I'm sorry, I maybe just didn't play it. But for me, Deathloop was really unique in the way it went about things. Was I sometimes confused about what to do because this is an entirely different way to play a shooter? Yeah, absolutely. I'd be lying to you if I said that I knew exactly what I was doing the entire time. But the game does have a magic way of pushing you forward, and sometimes you stumble forward, and through some happy accidents, you're able to find out more information about a certain variant that's going to get him or her to be where you want him to be at whatever time of day you want them to be there. I feel like Arkane knows how to make a really good game with this type of gameplay. Dishonored 1 and Dishonored 2 and the DLC stuff, mwah, perfect. Well, maybe not perfect, but really freaking good. And I don't know, maybe as a studio I don't want to say they were bored because I clearly don't know, but They figured out a way to take that gameplay. You've seen the trailers and the gameplay. You have some of the same powers, and they made it feel fresh for them. And the mere attempt at that should be applauded. Was it successful? To varying degrees. One of the things I love is the gameplay. That signature Arkane gameplay still exists. I wouldn't say that this is exactly a hardcore shooter first, but the shooting in Deathloop is some of the best shooting that I've experienced in a long time. Maybe it's because the aim assist is really sticky. You can get those headshots pretty freaking easily. I feel like a damn ninja at times, but they have damn near perfected the shooting that you've seen in other games. Now with Deathloop, they brought in a ton of different weapon types. It's superb, really is. You can feel like a total badass once you power up your character enough, and you are able to keep powers and weapons throughout loops thanks to a very smart upgrade system, which lets you basically infuse your weapons and powers with currency that you find in the game in order to keep those through future loops. Now that I beat the game, I can just run around and do what I want. And that's the other thing, right? Speaking of running around, just very quickly, the game lets you play entirely how you want. Do you want to take a more stealthy and slow approach? You can. Do you want to go in guns blazing and kind of have this feel a little bit like Doom? Obviously not as much because there's not a ton of crazy enemies or whatever, but that speed and that momentum can still be there if you level up your character enough and stick the right powers and abilities on them. That freedom, that choice should be applauded. They've had freedom and choice of how you go about things in their previous titles, but nowhere near as much as they've done in Deathloop. Finding all of these hints about these different variants, taking them with you into the next loop in order to find more hints, it allows them to do this awesome world building where at first you thought that Alexis, I'll use him as an example because he's been shown a lot, it's just a dude with a mask, right? Like, hey, that's clever. But no, he has a party, a dinner party, where the main course is other humans. I feel like if you're just powering and rushing through, you might even miss that little bit of context. So slowing down a little bit, reading all the contextual clues in the world, as well as finding audio logs and things of the like, it really does build and show you what this mysterious world is all about. I hope that I've done a sort of adequate job of explaining how the game is structured, because again, I feel like they've done a very poor job of that, and I don't know that I'm doing that much better of a job. But once you start playing the game, everything does start to make sense after the first few hours. The first few hours are kind of obtuse. You don't always really know what the hell is going on, but once the structure is there, you see exactly what you're doing. There's perfectly easy to follow menus that show you what to do, and you'll be solid. But given that there are only 4 levels, is that enough? Is the game super short? Well, it depends on how you go about things and how efficient you are at it. I can't see anyone beating this game like in under 12 hours. And of course, that's just a blanket statement. Maybe someone will beat it in under 12 hours, but it took me similar time that it took me to beat Dishonored and Dishonored 2. It's around the same size as those previous games, so it isn't super short. Just because it has only 4 levels with different variants, it can still be a sizable adventure, especially if you want to explore every nook and cranny, find every single weapon, get all the powers, power up your abilities as much as possible. There are a ton of things to do here for those of you that like spending a whole lot of time in your video game worlds. Now I want to talk about the story a little bit. I was really into it until the end. The ending disappointed me. I'm not going to talk about it, obviously, but for the most part, your main character, Colt, trying to figure out what is going on, how you're connected to some of these other characters, that did a good job of pushing me through. I was engaged for the most part. There's some very quirky dialogue between Colt and Juliana, the 2 main characters that you see over and over in the trailers. I love their relationship. The voice actors were amazing, but that ending just fell completely flat for me. And again, I'm going to move on from the story stuff just because I don't want to get into very many specifics, but I do have to say I'm disappointed in what does end up happening. As you guys know, this is exclusive to PlayStation 5, but it isn't the prettiest game. It still looks good. It still runs well. I just wanted to throw that very quickly out there. My overall enjoyment though, I wanted to talk about that. I haven't seen any other reviews yet. The embargo isn't up at the time of me making this video, obviously. I feel like this is going to get some 9s and it's also going to get some 6s. I think it's going to be a really divisive game. I personally enjoyed it quite a bit. For me, this lands right around an 8, maybe a 7.5 if I'm being extra nitpicky, because there are some repetitive aspects. Yes, 4 levels isn't all that much. The time of day does change them, but not in any crazy dramatic ways. But the puzzle solving of it all, it felt like one big escape room. If you've ever done an escape room, that's kind of what I equated to. And if you're anything like me, an experience like that really speaks to you. So overall, I did enjoy it. Again, I'm sorry if I did a poor job explaining what the game is. I really like the minute-to-minute gameplay. I like the intrigue of the world. I like the quirky characters, and I like that something different was tried. I think that a developer should be applauded for maybe putting themselves out there and doing something that isn't status quo. These days we get a ton of battle royales, we get a ton of games that aren't that different from each other. So Deathloop doing what it can to stand out, it gets some extra brownie points in my opinion. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Thank you to each and every single one of you for watching. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe. I'm sorry I haven't posted in a while to you regulars. We'll talk about that later. I'm gonna catch you guys again, hopefully soon. We'll see. Thank you. See you next time. Stay safe.